Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the matches which took place over the weekend in the EPLs. Big result in that Manchester derby. And we see Arsenal again dropping some big points. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some EPL football, we have returning Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christoph. There's only one place to start, and we have to go over there to Manchester. Man City leading and looking as if they're going towards a victory, Christoph. Only for Manchester United to hit them not only once, but hit them twice. That one ending in defeat for Man City. Talk to us about that game. How did you see, how do you assess that performance from Manchester United getting what I can only classify as a massive victory over Man City, putting another nail in the Pep coffin?
I don't know if there's a pep coffin over there at Man City. And I don't know if they would sack their greatest ever manager. Um, so after a single bad season, people have bad seasons. Not very often happens to Pep Guardiola. But yeah, like we said in the preview show that I think I said draw, possible draw, but the edge to Man United based on how poor Man City's form had been and the fact that Amarin had beaten City, only just a couple weeks ago, as well as, that new manager Bounce still in effect, it would seem. But I didn't think City outplayed Manchester United or anything like that. The possession was relatively equal. Chances created or shots on target rather about the same. Uh, I think it was, City could not really handle, was it Diallo? I think his name is. Yeah.
Yeah, Diallo,
Si
Ahmad Diallo.
yeah, City did not know how to deal with Ahmad, to be honest.
Yeah,
Rampant.
yeah, I mean, outside of the goal, he did pop up with some good chances, to be honest. And I mean, even Bruno Fernandes missed a glorious opportunity to bring Manchester United back in the game. So it was another toothless performance from City, in my opinion. Yes, they did get the go-ahead goal from Guardiola. That one coming, you could say, from a broken type set piece situation. The cross taking a very lucky deflection from Kevin De Bruyne, and Guardiola was there to head it in. But outside of that opportunity, in all honesty, Christoph, the touches in the United box was fairly limited for a team such as Man City. Haaland again was anonymous, and very few of the attacking players really popped up with any sort of quality chances. So it was another creative-less performance from Man City. Yes, I would classify it as possession, but not much coming from the possession in the way of chances.
I think it's kind of down to the way United set up. Playing basically five in the midfield. It prevents City from really having a stronger hold and possession, what in which they would normally have in this fixture. Having five midfielders help Man United. When you watch the game, you saw Man United farming diamonds around Manchester City. So they themselves, they had those diamonds, those triangles they always had apart. For Man City, that was not necessarily the case. And while I thought the Man City goal was very lucky, to be honest, because in my opinion, I thought Kevin De Bruyne actually wanted to shoot himself and had no choice but to actually do a cross instead.
Yeah, plus, I mean, the defender got a big deflection on it as well. So not only was it very lucky, I mean, it seemed as if Man City's luck in general had turned in that game.
I was about to say that in my opinion, it kind of looks like Man City is just out of luck. There was a chance from Phil Foden, skimming the bar. I think Onana got a touch on it. Last season Phil Foden took that shot, it probably scored. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Onana didn't even move on the City goal. I don't know if that was down to the deflection
To
or.
be honest, that is typical Onana, Christoph. If you look
Yeah, that's
at
what I'm saying.
Manchester United goals, this guy doesn't try. He doesn't dive. He doesn't react.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Wha-
I don't know if that was just typical Onana or if the
Typical
deflection still
Onana, typical in my
because
opinion. When I look
even
at a number of United
last
goals,
last couple
he is
games, this is
planted to the
what
spot.
last couple games he's been planted, not moving, not diving. I'm like, well,
I think that just his characteristic trait,
Manu,
in all honesty. I don't know.
Man, Manu might need to give their second choice keeper a run in the goal because I'm not
Well, I mean,
sure.
definitely with the rebuild of Amarin, I don't see Onana being Manchester United's long-term goalkeeper between the sticks, to be honest with you, to me, I mean, even when you compare Amarin to, let's say, Jurgen Klopp, the team that Jurgen Klopp inherited, maybe in maybe 2 years, very few of those players were still in the club. It was a complete overhaul. And I think for Manchester United to have sustained success, a number of these players have to leave the club. And it's going to take some time for Amarin to really get all of what you could classify as his type of players in the club and playing his type of football week in, week out. But definitely a magnificent result, I would say, for United. I wouldn't necessarily say performance. One of those goals was a gift from Nunes. Not only did he make the mistake with the back pass, but then he compounded that error by chopping down Ahmad inside the penalty spot when it seemed as if that chance had passed, Christoph, because
Um,
Ahmad hesitated in terms of the shot.
I'm
And
not
then
going to
Nunes
say it
again
was.
chopped him
com-
down.
I'm not going to say it was that the goal itself was a gift because you still have to score that penalty. I'm saying
Well,
the chance was a gift. The chance was a gift. The chance did not score. Nunes then gifted Manu a penalty on top of that, but you
right.
still have to score the penalty.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well taken penalty there by Bruno Fernandes. And then, of course, Ahmad making a darting run in between the defenders and coming up with the winning goal. At that point in time, City was just they were just shell struck. They were pretty much out of it,
I mean,
concentration, heads
from the
dropped,
from the
everything.
from the scoring of the penalty, it looks like they had consigned themselves to a draw.
Yeah, I
Concentration
mean,
drop,
I
like
had
you said.
called it a draw. In fact, I had called it a 1-1 draw. And when I saw Man United equalize, I was like, whoa, nice. It looked as if my predicted scoreline is spot on. But only seconds later, here it was Ahmad popping up and giving Manchester United a 2-1 lead. And that eventually was the game set match. And again, City dropping big points, still in that slump. Will they rise out of that slump before the January transfer window, Christoph? Or will Pep have to dip into that window and bring in maybe three, four players in order for City prospect to turn around?
Uh,
And if so, which positions are the key positions you think City should be investing in?
I think they've already confirmed that they will dip in the January window. I think they've already said that they will spend big at, you know. Definitely defensive midfield is a position that needs to be addressed. I suspect potentially center back or full back. And I think they might probably try to get an alternate striker to Haaland since he's out of form.
Definitely. Those are some key positions. Plus, I would look at the wide players as well. Jack Grealish, Christoph, he has just not worked out. You're looking at $100 million for a player, and he has very few goals. In fact, has he scored over the last year plus?
I'm not quite sure, I mean, maybe Jack Grealish gets a pass because he's English. Because I was actually seeing some stats the other day where Pepe, who used to play for Arsenal, actually had a better scoring rate and assist rate than Jack Grealish, and has more assists and goals than Jack Grealish,
And I mean,
and
we know
he's in a
Pepe
stacked
really
team.
came under a lot of criticism when he was over there at Arsenal. If you're saying a man of that caliber is outplaying a Jack Grealish statistically, then we know
Yeah,
it's really
statistically,
not working out for him over
less
there at
less
City.
less appearances, more dribbles complete, more goals, more assists, and in less games. So it's
Yeah,
a
for
bit
sure.
wild.
Those
And
are some that position, left winger. That's a position that obviously needs some addressing. You need Amara's replacement, so to speak. Goals, assists, that end product is missing. Doku, to me, isn't the man. He tricks his way, but then
there's no end
there's
product.
nothing at the end of those dribbles. There's no goal, there's no shot on target,
Well,
there's no assist, there's no chance creation. And
maybe
still,
maybe Manchester City will dip into the transfer window and sign Lionel Messi on loan.
I don't see that happening, Christoph. I really don't see that
I
happening.
mean,
But
it's it
who to
in
tell?
January. It's the off season for MLS, so it makes sense.
Well, I don't really see that happening. Inter Miami has bigger plans for Messi. Messi is more commercially valuable to Inter Miami, and I don't really see that move happening. You have to think long term. You need long term replacement.
Oh,
Maybe younger players who
definitely,
can freshen up the squad and bring a
de
fresh energy and hunger to that City squad
definitely,
because that seemed to be the case.
definitely, they do need long-term replacements to freshen up the squad. But Lionel Messi could be a quick fix.
I don't see that happening, none at all. I don't see it. Messi has the World Club World Cup, and then of course qualifying campaign for Argentina, and then World Cup 2026. To me, that might be the year we see the last of Messi, both internationally and maybe at the club level as well. So I don't really see that happening, and I don't think that would be a good move for City. To go for a player the likes of Messi. You need young, fresh talent, hungry players, players who have an end product and players who can bring a freshness to that Man City squad.
But let,
I
let,
thought
let
they
me
would have
ask
been
you
out of
this.
the slump by now, but
Let me ask you.
to me, that seemed to be the Man City season.
Let me ask you. Do you think Pep Guardiola gets fired?
I think Pep should do the honorable thing and just resign. I think Klopp probably saw a similar thing coming, Christoph, and Klopp took himself away, called it a day versus being fired, so to speak. So I think Pep should do similar, just walk away from it. Granted that he did just sign a contract extension, but I don't know. I thought the City would be out of the slump by now, but
I mean,
I'm
it's
not
a
sure how they get themselves back up and
11,
running, in all
11 game
honesty.
slump.
Yeah, I mean they have lost that shine. That fear factor no longer exists with City. Teams are now coming to the Etihad in the back of their mind they can get something from this game, as opposed to coming there and hoping for the best. It's a
But
complete shift in mentality from teams now facing Man City.
I mean, if you look at the games where Man City have lost or even drawn, it's what I've been saying all these weeks that they are weak out wide because of how they push everybody forward. Fullbacks, everybody, they're trying to overload defenses, and it's backfiring royally without Rodri there to make that fall, make that tactical fall, win the ball back in possession. Out of possession, sorry.
Definitely. I,
But
I
it's
didn't
definitely
know
those wide
that.
areas.
I didn't know Rodri's absence, Christoph, would have such a massive effect. Yes, we do know Rodri is a key player,
So
but
you did you
to
did you
these
did
levels,
you did
I
you
did
didn't
not
think
see the effect going to these levels.
you didn't think the Ballon d'Or winner's absence would be a miss.
No, I'm saying it would be a miss, but not to the depth at which City has fallen. That is the surprising part about this. Yes, you would. Yeah, I mean, it's just like Liverpool going without a Van Dijk or going without a Salah. You are gonna see the effect of that, but not to the point where you're completely out of title contention at this point in time. And to me, as I said weeks ago, City is out of title contention. I don't see them. I thought Arsenal would rise to the occasion, but Arsenal, speaking of which, dropping points again. Christoph, how did you see that game? Arsenal being held to a draw by Everton. Talk to us about that game over there at the Emirates.
Poor attacking display by Arsenal. Good defensive display by Everton. They came with a game plan on how that they would defend Arsenal, and it has worked. Obvious from how they played that they come for a draw.
Right?
They got the draw.
Definitely. And also the celebrations at the end of that draw from the likes of a Pickford, etc. I
Right.
mean,
I mean,
draw was the
pick
ideal
pick
result.
Pickford. I mean, I can understand Pickford's reaction. He had a brilliant game. He made a lot of saves. On a different day, it could have been 6-0 with the saves that he made. But
Mm.
in my opinion, it was Arsenal let themselves down in the attacking third. Uh, Nobody on the bench to come on and make a difference. No tactical tweaks to change up the game or anything. So, um, the players are at fault, but again, I also put the blame on the manager for not making some changes that would affect the game. You know, set pieces are set piece. You're not going to score every single set piece. You need to also score from open play. There was a penalty shot. I'm not sure if it was a penalty or not. Even reviewing it, I
Would
wasn't
have been
sure.
rather soft in all honesty.
Eh,
You mean that Mikolenko challenge?
on party.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it would have been a soft call in all honesty.
but that's just
And
it.
there wasn't enough evidence to show clear and obvious error. So,
I don't know. I mean, they did review it.
right.
What I saw was that there was not Partey was blocked off from the ball, so he was impeded, right? Even if there was not really what I would say is as a tackle on the player, right? He was impeded in the box. So
Yeah, but we see those sort of situations happening without any calls being
uh,
made at other parts of the pitch. So
here's the
again, to
thing.
me, no penalty, good call by the referee. And of course, VAR didn't see anything to say, hey, go to the monitor. You seem to have made an error. So for me, that was a good call. It was a masterclass in defending from Sean Dyche. So credit has to be given to Everton. And of course, Arteta should have anticipated and expected this. This is no surprise to anyone watching football. This is the game plan that Everton would have brought to the Emirates. We spoke about it in the pregame, where we were expecting Everton to come, defend for dear life, and try to play on the break and try to take advantage of any set piece situation. And so said, so done. And they did it to perfection, pretty much keeping Arsenal quiet pretty much all game. And of course, you said, the keeper was called up for a number of saves, but poor finishing, not enough going forward. And to me, as I've said weeks ago, Arsenal out of the race. What says you? Are
I
you now
mean,
showing are you now showing in the white flag, or are you still harboring hopes of Arsenal making a title push?
I'm not harboring any hopes of Arsenal winning the title unless they make some investments in January. But also, they're not completely shut out of the race because Liverpool is keeping them in it.
Well, for sure. I mean, Liverpool has drawn their last two games, and in the game versus Fulham, getting a red card in that one. Chelsea, on the other hand, is now five on the bounce, and they have closed that gap significantly. It's just now 2 points separating Liverpool from Chelsea at the top of the table.
I mean,
Granted, Liverpool do have a game in hand, but I rather points on the board versus game in hand. So that 2 points could potentially be a 5 point lead, but weeks ago, we saw where it was a 9 point lead over Arsenal and maybe about 10 over Chelsea, or was it nine as well? I think it might have been nine
it was
because at
9,
some point, Chelsea and Arsenal had identical records,
right?
not so long ago. So it was pretty much the same 9 point lead that Liverpool had over Chelsea. That 9 point lead has now been cut to two. With the game in hand, it's a potential five, or as what the statistics is showing now, it's really two, it's a 2 point lead. So uh definitely the battle, as far as I see it right now, is between Liverpool and Chelsea. And as you said, Liverpool is not doing themselves any favors as of late in terms of the last two games. So they definitely need to get back on winning track going forward. But disappointing season is really boiling down in the Arsenal camp, Christoph. And to me, the players are recognizing that the title is now gone. So possibly you may see some improvement with the pressure now off, but I don't really
I
see
mean,
that, to be honest. I
maybe,
don't really
maybe
see
not. I
that
think,
taking place.
I think it's a case where doubt has kind of crept in,
So they are
because
no
of
longer trusting the process then.
not necessarily is not. I'm not talking referring to the process. I'm saying doubt has crept in your minds in terms of the title.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. To me, Arsenal window is now over the last 3 years, and that window to me is slamming shut in this third year. First year, they gave City a good run when they should have won the league, in my opinion. That was a battle job. Last year came close again when one would have expected them to again run away with the league, get the better of City. And then, of
I
course,
don't
this year
know about
to
running away
me,
with the league last season when Liverpool led for three
well,
quarters of the season.
And this year, Christoph, we're seeing Arsenal regression, in my opinion. To me, Arsenal have taken a step back this year. So
Definitely taking a step back, lack of reinforcements or, quality additions. There have been Calafiori, Moreno, but I mean Calafiori is out injured, but Moreno we haven't really seen enough from him to kind of, I wouldn't
but
say
he's not
justify
being
his
given the
signing.
opportunity.
I
How can you
mean,
see much from
he
him if
he
the
played
manager isn't giving him the chance?
he
It's
started
not
on
as
the
if he's
weekend.
playing and playing poorly. The
He
manager
started on the
doesn't
weekend.
trust him, it
He
seems.
started on the weekend.
Yeah,
I
but
think
that's one out of what? We are now into week 16. How
I'm
many
I'm
starts has he gotten out of the 16 weeks of EPL football?
Arsenal's poor form this season is down to them not really recruiting big, in my opinion. It seems since the failure to sign Modric, they have been reluctant to kind of splash money, especially when you look that Chelsea splashed 100 million on Modric only for him to fail. I think in their mind now they are more, for whatever reason, overly cautious about making signings. Since that signing, the only big signing really has been Havertz 65 million. Everybody else has been less than 50 million pound signings. So I think
I mean,
Arsenal are
to me,
afraid.
it's not even about the costs. It's not even about the costs. One do associate costs with quality, but as we see in the likes of a number of players, let's take Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish costs 100 million, but are we seeing anything of quality from him? What, 3 years now
I
into his
mean,
contract? No, we're not seeing that.
I agree with
So
you, and I've said
it's
it.
not only about
People
money,
will.
but it's about the scouting department really finding quality players to sign.
I agree with you that the price of the player don't matter because if a team really want a player, they are going to sign them. They're going to
That's
come to
right.
some agreement. I do. Yeah, obviously, people are going to associate what you expect from the player with the price, and maybe that puts pressure on the player. I mean, I don't think that should put pressure on the player. These players are, adults. Maybe a 17-year-old might feel the
If
pressure,
you're
but
a quality man, the price
I,
tag does not matter.
yeah, I
Once you're
don't think so.
quality, which is what I'm saying. Sometimes these players are signed not because they are quality, but because that's what the market dictates, and that is the value the parent club places on these players, which is oftentimes is overinflated in either case. So Arsenal, I'm not sure what to make of them going forward, but for sure, to me, in my opinion, they're out of the race. Possibly a top four finish. Liverpool still holding it, but last 2 games haven't been the best. Drawing with Newcastle and then over the weekend, they again draw with Fulham, and that was a very interesting game. Liverpool going down to 10, but battling back for a draw at one point. One would have thought Liverpool would have gotten a win, but Fulham really kept themselves in the game, coming up with 2 big goals, and were hoping to hold out only for Jota to pop up and got that equalizer for Liverpool. But definitely a disappointing performance in terms of the result for Liverpool. But going down to 10, you could see getting a draw as a positive under the circumstances, in all honesty, as opposed to losing 3 points. So battling with 10 players is easy. It's no easy task in the EPL. So credit to Liverpool for battling back, but definitely this isn't what you want. You would have wanted them to at least maintain or extended their lead at the top of the table, but such is the nature of the game, and we move to next week. But some other interesting results, Christoph. Chelsea putting in a big performance and coming up with a win over Brentford. How did you see that game? What were your thoughts on that one?
I mean, I didn't see that one. I don't know how. I know that they won, but I didn't see how that one
Yeah, I
went.
mean, Chelsea played some decent football, played some decent stuff. Jackson, I thought, was pretty wasteful in terms of a number of chances that he got to really put
Maybe
away this Brentford team. He did
maybe he's
manage to,
starting to level out.
well, he did trouble the score sheet. He was one of those players which came up with a big goal there. Uh, But in terms of the chances being created, he should have probably had a hat trick, in all honesty. So that is definitely something in terms of Chelsea being a bit more clinical. Brentford, of course, we know hot at home, totally cold on the road, and this was another such situation. Mbomo did come up with a brilliant strike, running on to a ball, getting in behind the Chelsea defense, and really tucking that one away with some quality. But Brentford again, very poor defensively. Uh, one-on-one situation, Jackson really taking advantage of Pinnock. Pinnock could not live with him in that one-on-one situation, and he buried a goal, which turned out to be the winning goal for Chelsea. So Chelsea continue to press on, and they are operating below the radar, but they are a big threat to this EPL title. They are in good nick, good form. 5 wins on the bounce right now. So, and that is what have clawed back Liverpool. So it's gonna be a dog fight going into the Christmas period, and then of course, after things settle after the January transfer window, we'll see how things begin to take shape. But another good win. We can definitely see that Chelsea has some quality. Defensively, they may want to sharpen up or tighten up, but going forward, they are getting their act together and they're scoring goals. And as we know, goals win matches. So uh creditable win creditable win. Whelan come again for Brentford, but it seems it seems as if it's mental now for Brentford. To be honest, it seems as if it's definitely mental in terms of playing away from home versus playing at home. But some other interesting results, Christoph. Spurs, we're always talking about Spurs. They blew away Southampton quite easily. I recall in the preview show, you did say you expected a Spurs win, but Spurs will be Spursy at times. So this was Spurs really coming up big. Granted, this was against Southampton, and that loss subsequently led to the firing of their manager, Christoph. And he wasn't the only managerial casualty. The Wolves manager, Christoph O'Neill. Wolves is a team that we have shed the spotlight on all season. And it seemed as if the Wolves hierarchy, the Wolves management team had enough of O'Neill, and subsequently there was some implosion in that Wolves squad as well, and O'Neill is no longer in charge. Talk to us about that game, Christoph. That was a relegation dogfight. Ipswich coming up winners in that one, 2-1 winners over Wolves, and that was the last game O'Neill saw.
it's a very strange thing because, we kind of consider that Wolves would have had a bad start to the season given the fixtures at the beginning of the season. For them, it was just all big teams, big six teams, back to back. We expected them to kind of find their footing when they got to teams at their same level. But I mean, with the sacking of O'Neill, maybe the fortunes will turn going forward. But
I don't see that. I don't
but
see that because
otherwise,
I don't see that.
I see them and Southampton and potentially Everton getting relegated. To be honest, I thought
Ah,
Southampton were particularly horrible against Tottenham.
yeah,
Um,
Southampton definitely. Ipswich, I think so as well. I think Ipswich will eventually run out of steam. So to me, Southampton and Ipswich are two of the candidates. The third team is where the battle may lie, to be honest. But I don't know. I don't know.
I
This Wolves
mean,
team has definitely disappointed. As you
could
said,
be Everton, could be Leicester.
I'm more leaning towards Leicester, to be honest with you. I think it will be the three promoted teams that eventually get relegated. I just think this Wolves team has a lot of quality players. They just need to get their act together, especially defensively, Christoph. We thought the tables would have turned, but it didn't, and that is what led to O'Neill being sacked. Once they stopped playing those big six teams and started playing teams in and around them, for example, I recall them playing against West Ham, where that was a big game. They eventually came up losers. And then this game versus Ipswich was another massive game where one would have expected points. And again, they came up losers in that one. And to me, that is where O'Neill eventually lost his job. Of course, we heard of a number of incidents within the squad as well, where players were doing the blaming game, players getting physical. Cunha could possibly be facing suspension as well, based on some off the field activities. And of course, Nouri, the defender, picking up a red card after the game as well. So there's lots of problem over there at Wolves.
Out of
Lots of
disciplinary
problems,
issues.
and whoever gets that job will have his hand full in terms of getting that squad back together, and then them climbing out of the relegation zone. So it's interesting times ahead for Wolves and for Southampton. But Christoph, looking on at these two clubs, who are some of the managerial candidates that you're anticipating may get a look in as it relates to these jobs?
Don't have any. Maybe a David Moyes. David
Well,
Moyes.
definitely. Well, David Moyes is definitely
Maybe
out of a job.
maybe a Eric Ten Hag.
Well, these are definitely coaches who don't have a job right now. Possibly a Southgate as well. Potter also. So
Graham
a
Potter.
number of options are there.
I don't think Gary Southgate would take on a relegation team at this point.
Well, who
I,
to tell?
I
This
think
is the EPL, Christoph, so
he
you can
would
never
more
tell.
take on a mid-table team, like a Brighton or a Fulham or even
Mm.
a Tottenham.
Well, time will tell. Time will definitely tell. But I will be keeping a close eye on who gets these jobs and if they can turn the fortunes of these teams around. Again, I still feel there is something to this Wolves team, but so far this season I have been wrong. They have definitely disappointed, and I'm not sure what to make of them at this point in time. Then, of course, Christoph, we had spoken about Brighton, that Brighton versus Crystal Palace game. And as I told you, this Brighton team is like Spurs. Some weeks they're hot, the other weeks they're cold. And this week, they were totally cold, totally ripped apart by this Crystal Palace team that have been struggling not only for goals, but for points all season. And it was that Mansar that came up with the big goals. And Crystal Palace took all 3 points from Brighton. What can we say about Brighton, Christoph, and that matchup versus Crystal Palace?
Definitely a shocking result. Was not expecting that any at all, but I think you had said you potentially expected something like this to happen.
Oh, definitely.
I'm definitely shocked. I wasn't expecting Crystal Palace horrible all season, struggling to pick up points. Brighton, on the other hand, is quietly picking up points and is in what, like sixth or seventh in the table.
Yeah, this Crystal Palace team is a fighting team, Christoph. That's what I get from them. They're a fighting team. So even if they lose, they go down swinging. Brighton, on the other side, I just think Brighton has a very soft belly. Defensively very weak. So you can expect to score against them. Most of their wins have come when they outscore their opponents. So they're not
So,
keeping any clean sheets. They are
so,
outscoring their opponents. But Crystal Palace can be firm defensively and then, of course, hit you on the counter. And that was the situation in this game. A couple goals coming from set pieces, and then that Mansar on the counter was lethal versus Brighton, who had a lot of possession, especially in the second half, but just could not get past Henderson with any regularity. And it was a sound, solid defensive performance from Crystal Palace and then taking their chances at the other end, which really led to that win. It was a complete possessional domination in the second half by Brighton, but they lacked that cutting edge up front. I'm not sure. I think their game have somewhat slowed down in that attacking third, as well as the balance is not there as it was in previous times. Mitoma is no longer coming up with the end product at the end of his dribbles. And then on the other side, whether it's Adingra or one of those other wingers, they seem to be lacking in terms of cutting edge. So the result didn't surprise me, to be honest with you.
so
The result did not
you're
surprise me.
expecting both teams to dip into the transfer market in January.
Ah, that is an interesting one. I would suspect Crystal Palace may be more the team that would look to strengthen up, possibly in that midfield, or possibly an attacking player on the wing. Brighton tends to shop very conservatively. They have a very deep and wide scouting network. So even if they do shop, I don't think they will be pulling up any big names. They will be looking for some gems in the transfer window, Christoph, and then giving that gem some exposure in the EPL, polishing him up, getting that gem shining bright, and then possibly selling him on for some big money. I mean, we've seen that already in a number of the transfers they have made, the likes of a Caicedo, for example, going for, 100 million pounds, so to speak. He has been one of their their brightest shining gems in recent time. But that seemed to be their model. Find some unknown talents, find some, and
Victor
then
Gokieres.
yeah, pull them up to a level and then sell them on. So interesting times ahead. Of course, even that player over there at Arsenal, Ben White,
Trossard.
isn't Ben White coming from Brighton as well?
Yeah. Ben White, Trossard.
Right. So a number of players there which they have sold on for profit. So I expect Brighton to continue along a similar line, but I don't think there should be any trouble they should be finishing in mid-table. And similarly, I expect Crystal Palace to slowly climb their way out. Once their attacking players can remain fit, the likes of a Eze, the likes of a Sar, but I do feel they need some attacking enforcement because Nketiah has just not worked out. He was their big money signing over the summer. What's going on with Nketiah, Christoph? Is he just not good enough? Or does he lack that EPL quality and should probably play in his trade in the championship?
I mean, I couldn't really say it, to be honest. I don't
But I
know.
mean, he's coming from Arsenal, a player who you seem to have highly rated
No, no.
as a squad man
Uh,
coming off the
uh,
bench. You've spoken of him coming off the bench and really getting some goals for Arsenal.
well, I thought potentially he could have been a better option than Jesus, actually who has also produced nothing really all season. So, with Nketiah, he's a more of a pace striker. He could not. It's possible that he's not getting those balls in behind to run onto and finish. But we also know that he wasn't really, elite level. He wasn't that elite level striker. So I mean, hard to say. He's at Arsenal, he would have been given better quality chances and more chances. So it's possible that he's just not getting enough chances there. But it's a complaint I had last season and even this season is that Arsenal do create a lot of chances, but there's nobody finishing them. And last couple of games, we've seen it kind of really biting them um in the butt, so to speak. Creating the chances, no quality finisher outside of Saka to really get those goals.
Indeed, indeed. Well, that's another weekend of EPL action, Christoph, done and dusted. Any quick final thoughts as it relates to this weekend's result?
Interesting results, a couple of upsets on the weekend. Tottenham being Tottenham up and down. They look good, but when you look at the table, they're below the likes of a Brighton and a Fulham. So it's interesting to see where a lot of these teams finish at the end of the season. Where will Arsenal finish? Will Chelsea win the league or will it be Liverpool? Hard to tell at this stage. After
Ah,
you had suspected that the title was done and dusted,
yeah, man,
Liverpool.
definitely still done and dusted. Liverpool is
Uh,
the team to beat. Otherwise, you could say they have battled it. But it's
I
another
mean, they
interesting week
battled
of
it
EPL
last season,
football.
so it's
Well, that's a discussion for another time, dear Christoph. But for this week, some interesting results, some interesting results. But Christoph, thanks again for coming on board and really sharing your thoughts and your opinions. We're looking forward to having you around for the festive period when there should be several games just before Christmas and then after Christmas on Boxing Day. Viewers and subscribers, thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Merry Christmas to you all. Thanks again for the tremendous support over the period. But we should be back before Christmas in one final game week. And we'll be here to bring you some preview and some review action. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.